As entrepreneurs, we all have a reason why we chose to leave our 9 to 5 for an 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm here to capture those stories of why we all hustle and grind for our companies. Young Han is a serial entrepreneur, investor, advisor, coach, and fractional COO. He is an avid systems builder using his business operating system, Owner's Manual framework, to help him operate and scale 8 of his own businesses and coach and operate dozens of client businesses. In addition to being an operations, process, and systems builder, he is a podcaster on The Girl Dad Show, an angel and real estate investor, and a speaker. So, Young, I am so honored to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much. I could just feel this is going to be a great episode.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Anytime. So let's start everyone off with a really good foundation. What do you do? Like, what is your ninja skill?
I'm my ninja skill. If I had to sum it up into one thing, I'm an operations builder. I'm a systems builder, and that's my superpower. And I use that in business. So I help businesses through coaching, through fractional operations. So whether that's staff augmentation or business coaching, I help businesses do that. And then simultaneously, I use those same skills to build my own collection of businesses that I own and operate as well too.
Now, do you have a specific some people will I have one friend of mine that says I'm really good in companies up to 75 employees or 15 million in revenue. Anything more than that, it's outside my purview. Do you have a niche that you work in or an industry you like working in or some other thing like
Yeah,
that?
I like your friend's mode of niche because that's very similar to mine as well too. I would actually even say earlier, I start becoming less useful at the $10 million annual revenue mark. Once we get to the 10 or $15 million, I become less and less effective. I'm not a diplomat. I'm not really good at like making those 2 to 3% incremental changes. I'm the guy that like I'm the smartest dumb guy in the room, right? I'm the knuckle dragger. I get things started, I get things going, I make that $1 million, and then I'm really good at taking that million to 10 million. And then after that, as you start to have like a division that works for you and your executives have executives, I become less and less effective, right? Because I'm not that guy that paints that beautiful picture and then can like be diplomatic to tiers and levels of employees. I'm the guy that like wants to open the closet to figure out how dirty it is inside. I'm the guy that goes, hey, what's that machine do? Let's go knock on it real quick to see what that lever does. And I have to push every button myself, and I have to clean everything, and I have to get my hands dirty, and I have to like touch every button and turn every dial, and I just need to know. I'm very curious, and so it's unfortunate because I feel like ideally as you get older you want to be an executive that doesn't get dirty, but I'm like cursed because I love getting dirty. So I'm the same as your friend. Yeah, I'm very effective at the 0 to 2, and then I'm not as effective after 2.
I think there's a really interesting skill set that a lot of people don't realize in entrepreneurs is we are good at breaking stuff. We are good at that side of things. And that some of us are really good at that early stage. And once you get
Yeah.
us into that, when it starts feeling like a 9 to 5, it's no more fun. I want to go on to the cool new thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have this argument with my wife all the time because right now I'm in this phase of my life where I'm testing a thesis to see how many businesses I can build using my operational systems
Mhm.
and my superpower. And she thinks I'm crazy, right? Because we're in so much like financial pain, and I'm in like emotional and physical pain, like just working off the wazoo and sacrificing so much for this kind of collection of businesses. And I keep telling her, I justify it by saying, yeah, but like, think about it. I've been doing this for 3 years. At the track that we're headed, I can basically retire in 2 years. And then she just rolls her eyes and looks at me and goes, that'll last 2 months. It'll last 2 months. And you'll be like, oh, there's this other thing that I have to solve for the benefit of the family. And she just like, she already knows me so well. She just knows that it's not about money. It's really about this disease, this itch that I have. I have to build, I have to create, I have to break things and try and understand things. And yeah, I'm pretty sure she's right. I'm gonna say that she's not right because I don't want to admit defeat, and I do feel like I'm building something for my family, and I'm building a better livelihood for my family and my kids. But the truth of the matter is I just enjoy it, and she's absolutely accurate. I love the pain. Yeah, I love the pressure. I love that stage.
Yeah. And building. And I think for me, it's the creating, and it sounds like the same for you, just creating new stuff. I have this kind of this It started off as just one of those really wild ideas you get in your head about 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's
Mhm.
actually kind of getting some traction because I've had a few people say I'm in on it. I want to start like a retirement village, like one of those 55 plus villages, but only for entrepreneurs.
Mm.
It turns into this retirement think tank because you know damn well we
Oh,
are not going to stop our brains when we're older. We're going to keep wanting
yeah.
to do the next cool thing. Yeah, think about all a bunch of experienced entrepreneurs concentrated in
Oh,
one
yeah.
area.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I'm into. I'm into. Yeah, add me to your list of people that are interested.
I love it. It's
That's
growing.
very interesting. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about doing a. I want to get into senior care for sure. I mean, I definitely think there's a huge market and demand for that,
Mhm.
and I think that the future is going to be heavily leaning towards that. I think a lot of people think that, the silver haired generation is going to leave this huge legacy for us to like take and inherit, but it's not true because they're going to spend it on their self care. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that these guys are not going to transfer that wealth over to us. They're just going to deploy it in and rig the economy so all of our hourly workers will go to senior care because that's where the money's at, and they're going to pay for their self-care. And I think that's where the future is in business. I think there's a lot of money to be made there.
Exactly. And I think you're absolutely correct that the retirement of the generations that are coming up now are going to be significantly different than they were in previous years. And I'm even starting to see some of that, now with people that are retiring, it's getting to that point. So I think that looking at that as a
Absolutely.
different opportunity would
Yeah.
be, there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities to do really cool stuff, like create new things.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you can merge the two things, that'd be awesome because you know that the market's going there, and then you can also add the fact that we're going to be in that generation soon, and also
Yep.
like feed the fact that you're going to gather all these entrepreneurs together. That's a great business. I love it because there's
Absolutely.
marketability, there's the addressable market. It's also personally fun. It's like you hit the three Fs, fulfillment, fame, and fortune. I love it. All of those
There you
things.
go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
great idea. It's a
Gonna have
great
to make this
idea.
work now. Gonna have to make this work now. So you said that you're a fractional COO. Well, how did you get into this? Because I like to hear the stories about the path that you took to getting to where you're at and kind of the twists and turns and pivots that it takes to get there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a pretty long story, but the short of it is that growing inside of Silicon Valley, you got kind of thrust into venture, right? And so you kind of had to be part of the startup ecosystem or join a big tech company. It's very hard to survive there. It got gentrified so quickly. It's unbelievable how fast it went from like cherry orchards to the crazy world that it is now. I mean, once they found silicon, it was like nuts. I mean, that place grew so fast. Long story short, though, being in that ecosystem, I was able to get a lot of unique experiences and got to do a lot of cool things. And working in venture capital, startup ecosystems that are venture backed are very unique because you could do a lot of things in a short, condensed amount of time. And that's the benefit of working at startups, right? Is that you get to parlay in a lot of different roles in hyperscale, and it allows you to like kind of earn these notches that you otherwise wouldn't have in a 20 or 30-year career working kind of 9 to 5. And so that's kind of a really interesting set of experiences that have allowed me to learn about myself very quickly. And what I learned about myself is that I'm very big on being entrepreneurial, but my superpower is not the guy that's like visionary and kind of sets like the vision of where we're supposed to go. I'm really good at like taking a vision and operationalizing it. So I'm not creative, but because I've had so many reps in such a rapid succession, I was able to kind of uncover myself and really be introspective and learn about who I am and what my role is in these businesses. And so I'm a really good number two. I'm a really good operator. I'm a really good implementer and integrator, if you want to use the EOS terminology. I'm not the guy that's going to say, oh, it needs to be blue and this is the ICP and this is the value message. Like, I mean, I care and I know it's important, but I'm not the guy that's going to like, I'm not Steve Jobs. I'm not the guy that's going to tell us what's going to happen, like, and what people are going to want before they even know they want it. I'm not that dude. And I realized that very quickly through these reps. And so when I decided to start my own business and kind of leave the 9 to 5 and start my own business to be a service provider, I really leaned in on that. And so I set up shop to be a fractional COO. And the reason why I chose COO is because I realized who I am. And then why I chose fractional is because when I turned 40 and I had two young girls, I wanted a different lifestyle. I wanted a lifestyle where I could control my time better. And I chose to set up a consulting shop doing what I'm naturally really good at, and which is operations and systems building, and offering that as a service so that I can control my time and also do what I do best. And so those are the kind of two things that kind of sectored in 5 years ago now. 5 years ago now that I started shop, and been a consultant, and it's been really fun. It's been really really fun, and then that actually exacerbated the problem because do you mind? I know you didn't ask me, but I'd
Yeah,
love to
no, it's
kind of
okay.
tell you
Yeah.
what I'm doing now because I'm still doing fractional COO work, but the last 3 years, that has led me to working with a lot more clients at more rapid speed. So you work at a place, you work a 9 to 5 job somewhere as the VP of operations or the director of finance or whatever that function may be, and you learn a lot and you add these skills, hard skills to your tool chest. But if you start working with 4 to 6 of them at a time, doing that same function, your professional learning like skyrockets because you can pull from the different industries and the different personalities and the different skill sets of that organization. And my professional skills just skyrocketed after I became a consultant. I learned more hard skills and more concentrated times than I ever could have working at a company, which was really fascinating, something that I didn't realize would happen. But the key learning is that from coming from a macro point of view, seeing it from the forest and getting to see a bunch of different companies at the same time, I also realized how simple it was. How like 70% of the stuff was exactly the same. And all these founders and all these investors and all these employees were basically like, no, we're super unique. Our product is so specialized and we're a snowflake. And it's like, I agree with you, but like 70% of it is literally the same. Business is business. It's literally the same. Maybe 30%, maybe even 20% is unique. But seriously, the core guts of the operations are exactly the same no matter what business you're in, whether it's pool cleaning, whether it's mental health, whether it's AI, whether it's robotics, whether it's life sciences. I don't care. Like 70% of it is exactly the same. You still need a strategic plan. You still need resources. You still need financial modeling. You still need a top of funnel. You still need bottom of funnel. You need distribution. Like the core stuff is still the same. And once I realized that, I started documenting it into a system and a process to make my consulting easier. And I started being very successful with the system. So I was able to help companies scale even faster in less time. And that made me kind of go, wait, why am I not using this for myself? Like it's so silly to help all these companies. And so I started 3 years ago building my own businesses, testing the system out. And now I'm the proud owner of eight small businesses.
Nice. Awesome. And I
Yeah,
think it is true that having these systems, what we look at, even in what I do with keynotes, there's a lot of it is similar. We just have our own special version of doing it. It's kind of a niche that we have in a specific
like a
secret
framework.
sauce. Yeah, same frameworks.
Yeah,
It's
it's
yeah,
awesome.
exactly. And like for you, you were saying that you actually came up with a framework for it, though, correct? So you actually came up with like
That's
an
right.
operating system.
Yeah, that's right. Because I was trying to optimize for my time. Because I mean, inevitably, when you're a service provider, what you do is you are you try to get really good at what you do. So you have a really good product, and then you are the great product, right? And unless you build a product that's digital, and so you can kind of start building out, horizontal expansion, and then the only other thing you can do once you have a really great product is optimize for hourly rate. I mean, that's really the only other thing you can do to grow it, right? So you can start hiring people and then you can start scaling out that way. And then the other option is start to increase your rates so you can start getting more money for your time. And so it's those are the two vectors that you can make more money as a service provider, right? As a specialist. Now, I'm sure you've kind of thought through this a little bit and maybe you haven't like broken it down completely this linearly, but that's essentially what we're all doing as service providers. And so you're either digitizing it and hiring people to scale it out sideways, or you're increasing your hourly rate to optimize for hourly rate to make it a more premium product to work less and make more. And so my problem with that is that it is fun and I love what I do, but I had an itch to see like if there's ways that I can use this to scale without those two parameters. And so I started reverse engineering what the similarities were and started documenting it into a set of steps, and then also a system that people then could use to start to do this without me. And inevitably I started thinking about, oh, EOS would be great. And so I started researching EOS to see if I wanted to be an EOS implementer or integrator. And I also read the eMyth. eMyth is great as well too. It's a fantastic operating system. They're in a lot of ways they're better than mine. The only problem for me was I started asking a bunch of EOS implementers and integrators like, hey, how much do you make? And I got a big smattering of answers, anywhere between $100,000 a year all the way to $1 million a year. And then my second question was, how long did it take you to do that? And they said, it'll take at least 2 years. Ideally, it'll most likely take 4 to 6 years to get to the point where you're making outsized returns. Like, and I basically was like, I'm already making that money. So why would I pay someone a franchise fee to learn the system so 6 years later I can make less than I'm making now? It just didn't make sense. And so I started building my own system, and that's kind of why I started designing it myself, because it just didn't make monetary sense. And then that basically allowed me to make my own system. But that system now is what I use to, once I had the system, then that's when it made me realize that I could build it for any business. And so my first business that I started to test the system was a pool cleaning company. Mm-hmm. And so now I've been using this system to build businesses for the last 3 years, or 2.5 years, I should say.
And that pool cleaning business has some interesting metrics on it, like how quickly you built it to what levels. I'm going to let you say, because it's
yeah, it's been really
impressive.
It's been my crown jewel. Yeah, it's my crown jewel for sure. It's been really helpful to see if the system works. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, my singular focus has been like, I got to build a system so I can scale myself, because I don't want to just optimize. I don't want to keep raising my hourly rate. I don't want to keep having to hire more people to do the same work, right? So I do want to figure out ways to scale this beyond me. And I want a digital product or some sort of product that can scale. And so it's been my singular focus. And so I did something else before I started Blue Ocean. I did hire 2 young ladies to start doing this and start to see if I can actually scale this out. And neither one of them owned a business before. And I tested. So I taught them the system. They started working with other companies to do it. And they both also can do it using the system. So I did feel a lot more validated that the system actually worked. And then the pool cleaning company was the final test. That was the say, like, okay, now I really need to test it on real life business, so people don't think my business is just business coaching. Because I mean, if you look at all these business gurus and you look at them, I mean, the number one thing I hated about all these business gurus is that their only business was business coaching. Nothing against it, right? I think business coaches are awesome and they're very valuable, but I also didn't want that, right? I didn't want it to be like, hey, I need you to buy me for me to have a successful. It just felt very nothing wrong with it, and I think it's great. I think business coaches provide a ton of value. For me personally, I wanted it to be something that actually worked in the world, right? Like something that could actually be applied across different industries and different verticals. So I started the most random business to start, and had nothing to do with technology, had nothing to do with venture, had nothing to do with startup. I started a good old-fashioned cleaning company, and we started a pool cleaning company from scratch. No acquisition. I didn't acquire a business. I literally started it from scratch, bought the first truck, hired the first tech, acquired the first customer, and I partnered with a function expert. So I talked my pool builder into quitting his job and joining me to start this cleaning company. It took me 9 months to convince him, by the way. So he's my business partner, and I found my function expert, my visionary, my creative, that I supported operationally. And we, in our 3rd year of business, we'll just be under $4 million in annual revenue.
Which is amazing. Knowing that most companies don't even last 2 years, that you're at 4 million revenue is truly says that your system works.
I love that you hit that stat, because that's the stat that I'm angling for, right? Because I'm trying to build a system that'll beat the statistics. Because if you look at the statistics, I love that you know this stuff. You're so awesome. We could talk for hours. So the research that I did was I found out that 90% of small businesses fail within 5 years, right? And less than 10% ever make more than $1 million a year. And 60% of businesses fail in the first year. And so these stats are crazy. But the reason why I'm so focused on a system that helps you make $1 million is because once you pass that first threshold, you're already in the top 10% of businesses in America anyways, right? And so we got to get you to that $1 million mark for 2 reasons. One is that now you're at a safer space. And the reason why it's so important to get to $1 million in revenue, and that's kind of why the system is engineered to help you get there, is because on average, no matter what the industry and vertical, 15% EBITDA is a fairly conservative number that you should hit after you operationalize and optimize the business at $1 million in revenue. That's $150,000 roughly, right? Conservatively speaking, depending on what industry you are, those numbers change. But if you can make $150,000 in free cash flow, you now have a business that has some liquidity that you can now invest in yourself. You can invest in hiring a specialist to do the stuff that you hate. You can hire a GM. That's a great salary for someone to run your business for you. That's $150,000 that you now can play with to actually do something with your business that's beyond your business. Whether that's you getting inside of the business, going back to doing what you love. I started this business because I love dog training. Great. You have $150,000 in free cash flow. Hire a GM. Go back to dog training. Someone else is going to grow your business for you. And so my singular focus was to crack those statistics and build a system that helped you crack it at a higher rate of success.
It's something that I see with a lot of visionaries. I love visionaries. And, I can put my implementer hat on when I have to, but I'm really a visionary. I like trying to see what kind of cool stuff I can create.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I see all of these visionaries and they're in what I call the suck. We have to act as implementers. We're in that point where nothing's going right because we don't operate well as implementers. We're operating well outside our zone of genius. Often we have to, especially when you first start out, your job title is, yes, all the things.
Yeah.
But I have to
Your
do
job
it.
title is yes.
It's really not a wrong answer.
That,
Yes.
you need to make a shirt. That's your show's merch right there. That's great.
Exactly.
I would totally wear that shirt. That's awesome.
I've been thinking about podcast merch, and that one might be it. I think I have my first shirt now.
That's a great shirt. My job title is yes. That's so funny.
All the things. But
Yeah.
that's something where I think we come to a point where we realize or we have enough income coming in that we need somebody to help us to say, great, out of those 6 million really great ideas, we're going to start with these two, and have that structure that helps us to create, to be in our visionary mode and doing this really cool stuff and coming up with the new ideas. And then being able to hand it off to somebody that we trust, saying, okay, I trust that you're going to be able to make this come into reality. So I guess one of the questions I'd love to ask, because I love asking this question, especially with like newer business people, where do you see newer business people? I don't want to say failing because part of our job is making mistakes and figuring out how to do it. I want to say, where would you say a good point for them to enter is? Like, what is a point where it's like, I need to hire someone on, I don't know what to do, there's something wrong. This is an untenable situation. I can't keep going forward like this. What would you say to somebody in that situation? What questions should they ask themselves? When should they engage a COO? How should they do that?
My recommendation is to get a coach and to get a business coach or a consultant that can actually guide you through some of these kind of turning points in the business. There's no set crossroads because each business is somewhat different, right? And I know I just now I'm kind of contradicting myself because everything's the same, but I will give you my opinionated answer anecdotally, and then I'll give you the kind of the generic answer. You need to look at the business to see what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and how much that's costing you to do those things. So my recommendation is first and foremost, have a really, really good product. First and foremost, just focus on being the best service provider of that service that you possibly can be. Research the crap out of it, interview 100 people that are better than you at it, do all the things that make you great at that thing. So you're delivering a dynamic product, because just by having a really great product in this market, in this economy, in this country right now, you will make a lot of money. You'll make $200,000 to $500,000 a year just by being a great at what you do. Great maker of this thing, of this iPhone case, or the great service provider of coming up with branding and colors, or like, I don't know what your business does, but just being super good at it and thanking the customer, showing up on time, and just the basics, you will be successful. You'll make good money. And it's kind of crazy to say that because no time in the world has this ever been true. But the barrier to being a successful business owner is so low right now. There's just no competition. Like, when's the last time you found a good house cleaner? When's the last time you found a good gardener that showed up consistently and did a good job and thanked you for their business? Like, it's just rampant across the country. The entire United States is struggling to find to find good service providers and workers. So it's a great time to be able to step up and just provide decent service, common courtesy, and then be a function expert or really good at what you do. You should be able to generate good revenue. And at that point, when you start hitting, this is my opinionated side and me being anecdotal, it should be around $20,000 to $40,000 a month. Once you start getting $20,000, $40,000 a month, and you've finished optimizing for your hourly rate, and you've finished optimizing for one or two hires that can scale you out, you should start looking for function experts that you can pass some of these tasks off to. My first recommendation is passing it off to a finance person. Get rid of bookkeeping and finance. Those tasks are super, super important and can change and alter the way you make decisions, but they're highly administrative, meaning you want to outsource that because it's a low cost but high impact role that you shouldn't do whether you're a finance expert or not. Like, I'm a financial expert and I still outsource my bookkeeping and accounting. It's just not worth my time because it's so administrative. Does that make sense? And so get rid of
100%.
that one first. Yep. And then the second thing that I would get rid of is figure out what you're naturally good at and what you're naturally weak at. So that one is a default. You should get rid of that one first and outsource that as soon as you can. The second thing that you should do is start looking at yourself and figuring out what you're naturally good at. Stop doing things that you suck at immediately. Because the number one trap that we have as business owners is that, like, we always look at, oh, I'm really bad at this, I need to double down on this and work on it. The amount of effort it takes to work on our weaknesses is like 10 times the amount of energy that it takes to work on something that we're naturally good at and provide 10x value. So go figure that out as quickly as possible, as soon as you have a little scratch or a little money, and start investing in the things that you absolutely suck at, because those are the specialists that you want to hire first, because you can now 10x your time.
Yeah. And I think working in those things that we really suck at and not outsourcing our weaknesses, at least for me, I've done it. I mean, I will 100% fess up to having done it more than I probably should have. And it is absolutely soul sucking because I'm
Yeah.
not spending those creative energy. I'm spending all of my creative energy on pushing against a wall versus my zone of genius that I'm really good at that doesn't take any effort and I just go. And so I agree with that.
Yeah.
And bookkeeping, man. Yeah, I 110% agree with you there. I have a business degree and I still hate bookkeeping. I can do it. I'm good at it. It is the most soul-sucking, awful thing. I just and I won't
you
do
know
it.
what's crazy? I love it. I love doing bookkeeping. I love all the matching of the accounts and lines and tracing the money. I love finance, right? I'm a big numbers guy. But that's one thing that I always recommend every business owner default outsource, because it's too administrative. It's too administrative and too important. Everything else you should be able to, and you can inherit, but as your future business coach, I'm telling all your listeners, like, this is one that there's no argument. I don't care if you're strong at it, if you're weak at it. It's not worth your time and the level of skill and the amount of administration that you have to use to do a good job on it. And it's too important for you to, like, try to hold on to it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Find yourself a good bookkeeper that can scale with you, because those numbers are the foundation to projecting all of your future plans. Like, if those things are not accurate and someone's not watching it all the time and making sure it's all tight, it's not, you're gonna mess it up. I mean every business owner I know is just like 80% good at everything, like. And so imagine having 80% good books and you're building your financial projections on 80%. It's not okay. It's not okay.
I think
Yeah.
80% good books is optimistic.
Yeah. I will tell you, the funny thing is about my system, the whole system is predicated on being 80% good at everything. Stop
Yeah.
trying to be great at anything. It's really about being good enough at everything, and then going back around and making it a little bit better, going back around making it a little bit better, and going back around making it a little better until you have enough money to hire someone really great at that function. So it's being a super generalist until you can hire specialists. But the books is one thing that is so low cost. You can outsource that for low money, and they would be way better at you on it. So it's just one of those things that I don't really negotiate when I coach clients.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like you're talking about 80%, that's one thing I like to do is have at least a limited functional knowledge of every single aspect of my business so I can make a better decision. Because I feel as a leader, unless I have some, like you said, 80%, at least I have some general idea what I'm talking about. I'm not going to just, I'm not going,
Totally.
I'll have an idea for what I'm doing and I have some concept of it. So that way that I can at least make an informed decision. It doesn't have to be an expert decision. I'll pull in an expert if I need to, but just a general idea.
You're very
So,
savvy. You're very, very savvy. I mean, if I can just add to that, because you're talking about something that is absolutely critical, which I think people also forget. I just said to outsource the stuff that you suck at, but this is post you knowing at least how to do everything good enough.
yeah.
The reality is, if you want to scale your business and start using leverage to hire people to do things, you need to have a baseline for what I call it qualification and quantification. you need to be able to qualify what good looks like in each one of those roles. And you also need to quantify how long it should take them to do that quality of work. You can't start hiring people if you don't give them some barometer of what success looks like. This is why so many business owners fail at hiring people and outsourcing work, because they're not doing a good job of quantifying what their how long they want it to take and what good looks like for them. But if you do it good enough, 80% good enough, and you're not great at it, and they can't, and you can quantify and qualify what you're doing, and they can't beat you as an expert, you have a much easier time managing them or firing them, because it's very clear that, hey, I'm not a great marketer, but my silly marketing tactics has gotten me 5 leads a month to go into the top of funnel. If you can't beat my 5 leads with the 5 hours I spend a month on this, you're not going to have a job in 2 months. That's a very clear. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not good at this, and this is what I'm doing. If you can't beat this in 2 months, we're going to have a different conversation.
Exactly. So yeah, we could probably go on for about another hour, because this has just been such an awesome conversation, but we are at the end of it. And I want to ask one question. What is a book or a podcast that has had a significant impact on your life? I ask every guest this, and I like to give something back to the audience with this.
Yeah, sure. My most favorite book is Hard Things of Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. I love that book so much. It's made such an impact and influence on me, just because I just find it so entertaining and so real. And it's just like shows you how gritty it is to build a business, and how hard it is, and all the challenges and all the crazy things that happen, and how everything goes wrong. It's Murphy's Law on steroids, right? And I love that book for those reasons. And if you don't mind, I'll also share my favorite podcast. It's not really businessy in a sense, but it's the All In podcast. I'm like hooked on this one. I listen to it religiously. I now watch it now because they launched on YouTube. But it's really interesting to hear the perspective of, the super wealthy, and these people that are uncancelable essentially. And it's really fun to hear how they think about the world, because that gives me the landscape to start thinking about how I want to build in my world. And it's a really good podcast for that kind of macro lens of the world that's unadulterated or unfiltered or uncensored. You can't cancel these billionaires. They've literally been like, they've literally said it. They're just like, and they all have different perspectives, right? They all have like very different political views, different business views, different business experiences, how they amass their wealth. And it's just really fun to hear it. I'm not saying I agree with any of them. I just like to hear all the sides of the points of views. It's really fascinating.
Exactly. And there's so many stories. That's one of the reasons I started this podcast. There's so many stories behind that. There's so many stories of how I got started. And a lot of times just being kicked in the teeth a bunch of times. And there's a level of resilience in entrepreneurship that is far beyond any other position or anything at a corporation. Just so much resilience there. And that's why I think you say they're uncancelable, is because of that. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm really honored to have you here. It's been a really fun time, and I really appreciate you, man.
Hey, thank you, Andrew, for having me. I really appreciate it. This was really fun.
Awesome. Thanks. See you soon. Thanks again for joining us on the Hustle and Grind podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Young, check out the link in the description.